Nope.
Hello, dear listener, and thank you for joining me in this week's video. I want to start by apologizing for not uploading a video last week. Things have been extremely hectic for me lately, and I just did not have the time to create one. So, in order to make up for that, this one's going to be a bit longer than the ones I've been uploading recently. And on top of that, stay tuned because at the end of this video, I'll be announcing the winner of the 5K giveaway, as well as adding a shameless little plug. This week, since it is still summertime, even though the days are fleeting, I thought why not make a video about enjoying the great weather and even greater outdoors. I present to you 3 true creepy camping stories. Let's begin. Number 1. So, my grandparents had been wanting to do something when they retired, and my grandpa had always enjoyed being in the mountains. They decided to get a cabin out in the mountains, about 2 hours from our home. One weekend, they had invited my parents, me, and my brother to stay up there with them. We agreed and went up in the following days. Upon arrival, I was bored, and so was my brother. I was probably 11 years old, and he was around 16. We were roaming around, trying to find something to do. We walked down the hill away down from the cabin that sat by the road. When we reached the bottom of the hill, which was basically just a forest and logs, we found a long rope hanging from a giant tree. My brother and I turned this rope into a swing, and soon both of us were enjoying it. Now, I already felt creeped out from the area. When we were walking up, we heard dogs barking in the distance, and the trees were thick with drop-offs to new hills. I couldn't help feeling uneasy even while we were having fun. My brother and mom found a treehouse that looked as if it hadn't been occupied in a while. I was too freaked out to go inside, but they said it was fine. We spent most of the time outside playing with the swing and hiking. When we left the cabin and returned home, my brother went to his room to play on his phone. Later, he returned and told my mom he had been taking pictures at the cabin and down the hill. Now, as I said before, when you went out the back door of the cabin, there was a hill that led to logs and trees. We had taken a picture sitting on that log before at this time, and now my brother said he had taken a photo around the same area. When he showed us that photo, we couldn't help but be freaked out. I don't have the best memory of exactly what it looked like because I had only gotten one glance and it was a long time ago, but I remember I was extremely scared. In the corner of the photo, almost perfectly set up, was the shadow of a person wearing all black. They were just standing in the corner of the picture with a black hood covering their head. I have no idea how none of us saw or heard this person. How could my brother have even taken the picture that close and not seen him standing there? Anyone who's walked around a forested area knows how noisy it can be to move around, so I keep wondering, how did he get that close to us without making a single sound? And most importantly, why the hell was he just standing there, staring at the camera, facing us perfectly? I was definitely freaked out and a little weary to ever return to that cabin again. I did in fact return though, about 6 months later with a neighbor. We had been driving from the town, about 15 minutes away from the cabin. I was scared because it was nighttime, pitch black, and the only light we had was that coming from the car's headlights. It was one small road in the middle of trees and blackness. That's when I heard my friend say, "That was creepy." I asked him what he was talking about. He told me he saw someone standing at the side of the road. I asked him what the man was wearing, and he said he couldn't tell, but it was definitely dark clothing of some kind. I can't be sure if it's the same man who was in the picture half a year earlier, but it's enough for me to never want to return to that cabin again. Luckily for me, my grandparents ended up selling the cabin. After they sold it, I have never come back. Though sometimes I have the urge to go there and ask the new owners if they've ever had an encounter with the man in the black hood. Number 2. When I was about 14 or 15, my dad and I went camping with one of his friends at a local park 5 miles from where we lived. The campgrounds are located in the biggest state park in our area, within miles of trails, many of which are for horseback riding and mountain biking, in addition to being able to walk them. The day after we initially set up camp, we decided to hike some of the trails after breakfast. After hiking for about 20 minutes, we came across a bizarre scene. There were a group of people standing not only around the trees, but also in the trees. The weirdest part was they were all wearing old, medieval style clothing. Not only that, but they were all bearing weapons of some kind, mostly blades. They began to ask us if we were part of their clan, and if we weren't allowed to pass. We tried explaining to them that we were just campers walking along that particular trail, but they were having none of it. They simply kept asking if we were part of their clan. Eventually, they got tired of repeating themselves and began to chant something in a language we didn't understand. That's when one of them, who seemed to be one of the larger ones of the group, emerged from the trees wearing a dark hood that obscured his face. He also had a knife, and from what I could tell, he knew how to use it. He began to walk towards us. The sight of that large, hooded man bearing a knife coming towards us as his group chanted in some mysterious language was enough for us to turn around and book it in the opposite direction. When we returned back to our campsite, we reasoned that they were probably just a group of people practicing their LARPing sessions and laughed it off. But a part of me wonders if it was something more than that. Either way, I'm glad we didn't stick around to call their bluff. Number 3. This happened when I was 20 years old. I had left home when I was 16 and decided to explore the world to see what I can find. I had been in Texas and Louisiana most of my life. I went from Missouri to New York, California, anywhere really in the United States that I can actually get to. Finally, I decided to go home. Up until then, I had been staying in Oklahoma when I received a phone call from my mom saying that she might be dying from cancer. I came to find out later that she actually wasn't, but just wanted me to come home. I was hitchhiking through Oklahoma and was near Chickasaw National Park. In 2 days, I hadn't been able to catch a ride. As long as I stuck my thumb out, I couldn't get anybody to stop. So I said oh well and pitched a tent in the national park. I decided to explore some, and I followed the paved road until I got to the camping area. There was a fire pit a little ways off the road, and a little bit past that was a clearing. That clearing had a few picnic tables, so I decided that's where I was going to camp that night. I decided to explore a little bit more, and followed a deer trail into the woods. As I was walking, I looked to my left on the ground, and there was a hawk laying there, with no head, as if it had been burned off. An eerie feeling came over me, but I just brushed it away as me being paranoid. I already had some paranormal experiences, but never came across one that involved animals. So I walked away and went back to the area that I had decided to pitch my tent. I sat there until it started to get dark and set my tent up. I left the tent flap open because it was a very cool evening. Finally, night came. The street lamps that were along the paved road came on. To my surprise, these lights were actually good enough to the point where I could read a book. As the time went on, I started to get sleepy. I reached up to zip up my tent flap and looked over at the street light that was directly in front of my tent. Standing there, directly under the streetlight, was a creature as tall as the streetlight itself. Well, maybe not that tall, but only a few inches underneath it. Its hair was very, very long, and it looked to be hunched over. I couldn't see any eyes because the hair seemed to be covering its entire face. This thing was all black as far as I could tell, but what little skin I could see that was sticking out under its fur was as white as chalk. That skin that I'm talking about was its hands, which was clearly past its knees. Its hands were just hanging there, lifeless, leading to sharp black nails. The parts of this creature that were black were so dark they seemed to absorb the light. That thing just stood there, and it seemed as if the air around it was vibrating with some type of static. Now, don't get me wrong. I was very startled and afraid because I didn't know what that thing was. Then, suddenly, underneath its hair, I could see the white start to show even more, and it was as if the creature was smiling at me. It stood there for a very long time. Finally, as I was looking at it, something came over me. Now, you may not believe me, and you might say this story isn't true, but I know what happened. I know what happened to me. I grew angry. Very angry. I felt a rage inside of me, and it grew very strong. I stared the creature down, got out of my tent, stood up, and stared right at it. I looked and said, "I'm not afraid of you. You have no power over me." This seemed to make the creature laugh, and all that did was make me even more angry. I stood my ground and again told it, "I am not afraid of you. You have no power over me." I stood there staring at it for what seemed like forever. White, hot rage was growing inside me when all of a sudden I heard a loud snap coming from behind me. I turned around quick and saw nothing, but then I was afraid that I would turn back around only to find the creature inches from my face. I hesitantly turned back around, and the creature was gone. It had just disappeared. After I realized I was alone, I went back in my tent and bundled up in my sleeping bag. Somehow, I actually managed to fall asleep, but that night I kept having horrible nightmares of the creature standing over me, laughing with a toothy grin. The next morning I packed up my stuff, and looked towards the streetlight where the thing had been standing. That's when I saw blood on the pole of the streetlight. It was then that I no longer felt that anger and only felt fear. I gathered up my stuff and got out of there as quick as I could. I headed towards the highway, stuck out my thumb, and thankfully, someone picked me up this time. I have never been back to Chickasaw National Park since that night, and never plan to. A word of warning: be careful where you camp. You never know who or what you might come across. You might not believe what I have written, but it did happen. If anybody listening has any idea what that creature could have been, please let me know in the comments below. Or if you know what may have caused that undescribable rage to boil inside me, also let me know in the comments below. I hope I never experience either of them ever again. Thank you for listening. I think the moral of these stories are, if you see someone in a black hood in the middle of nowhere, you might want to get the hell out of there as soon as possible. But anyway, let's get to the fun part of this video: the winner of the 5K giveaway. Now, in that last video I posted, I prompted you guys to comment what your biggest fear is, whether it's something that's popular and well known as a phobia, or something a bit out there. The winner of the 5K giveaway is Alicia Morgan, who is afraid of balloons and biscuit cans that pop when you peel the string. Oh, and also earwigs, which I can definitely sympathize with. Congratulations, Alicia. Just like the last winner, I'm going to need you to send me a message, either on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. That way, I can get your email address and we can coordinate on the best way to send you your prizes. If I don't hear from you in the next 2 weeks or so, I will have to choose a runner-up. So please, Alicia, get back to me as soon as you hear this. As for everybody else, it was great to read your comments and see what freaks you guys out. A lot of you were afraid of the same thing, which is going to inspire future videos. So I think I'm going to prompt another question. What is the scariest nightmare you've ever had? Or at least the one you can remember the most. Personally, I had a nightmare when I was about 3 or 4 years old, where I had to fight an evil clown with the help of Buzz Lightyear, and the clown was definitely winning the battle and killed us, so that was pretty bad. But anyway, guys, hopefully you guys give me some great answers below. And about that shameless plug I brought up, if anyone needs a break from the creepy side of YouTube, you should check out the new show my friends and I worked on. It's a semi-political, semi-cultural show called Living with Trump, in the style of The Office or Parks and Recreation. I'll leave a link on screen and in the description below if anybody's interested. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next week, stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next video.